Hello, everyone, and welcome to a wonderful game that just finished from the Spanish Club Championship, or not just, I think it's from the previous round. It is David Anton Guijarro versus Hans Moke. Niemann was suggested to me via X by a user Flavio Corpa, it's a pretty, casual game, but has a very, very interesting conclusion. Featuring David Anton Guijarro and Hans Moke Niemann, we've covered many of both of their games, so yeah, you know what they're about. Even though Hans is over 100 points higher rated, David Anton is very rarely the underdog. If you've seen him play, you know that he can beat just about anyone. So yeah, let's see what happened in this game. And also, big congratulations to everyone, not just who won yesterday, but also who joined the Lotus Chess Arena. Over 401 player joined, and Piotrek 212 won the tournament very nicely. It was a close call. Abjit almost overtook him. He got second place with 92 points, and Isurox in third, and everyone else in the top 10. Patriots 12, Venezuelan Tal, Dasky 001, Chronaldinho, NSC Expo, Ninja Go Chess, and Bekamchik, and everyone else who played. So it was very, very nice, and I think we're gonna organize many more of these, like I said, during the stream, at least once a month. But we'll see, maybe even more. So getting into the game, David Anton opens with pawn to d4. Hans replies with knight to f6, and we have a very, very nice c4. Going into the Ragozin defense, e6, knight f3, pawn to d5, avoiding the Nimzo with knight f3, knight to c3, and bishop to b4. So the Ragozin defense is on the board. We have queen to b3 and pawn to c5. And this is all now very, very standard theory. They go into a fairly well-known line, knight to c6, bishop to g5. We have queen to a5, and bishop captures on f6. We have d captures on c4, queen captures on c4, and g captures on f6, rook to c1, and queen captures on c5. Queen h4, avoiding the queen trade. We have king to e7, now defending the e7 pawn with the f6 pawn with the king, and pawn to g3. We have captures on c3, rook captures and queen b4, offering a queen trade. And there are a couple of games that reach this position. For example, bishop to g2 is a known move. Queen to c4 has also been played, but queen captures on b4 is actually the most played, as not a lot of games that reach this position, but everyone almost goes for a queen captures on b4. Knight captures a3, knight back to c6, and now bishop to g2, bishop to d7, and king to d2. And there is only one game, Radoslav Wojtaszek versus Frederick Svane. It was played a month ago in Biel, and in that game, rook 8 to c8 was played. Here, Hans goes for rook h to c8, and it is now as of move 17 that we have a completely new game. So, okay, rook h to c1. David Anton doubles up on the c file. We have knight to d8 and knight to d4. Centralizing the knight, also putting pressure on b7. Rook captures on c3. We have rook captures and rook to c8. So, okay, b7 is defended. No worries there. Pawn to f4, and now rook captures on c3. We have king captures on c3 and king to d6. So fairly quickly everything gets traded off. They spent like half an hour of their clock, and it's a bishop and knight endgame with equal material. Hans has a doubled f pawn, so okay, white is a little bit better. Nothing spectacular. So let's see what happens. We have king c4, pawn to a6, bishop to e4, putting pressure on the h7 pawn, and pawn to f5, kicking the bishop away. We have bishop to f3 and pawn to h6. A good idea to put pawns on dark squares. Pawn to b4 and pawn to b6. We have knight back to b3. Pawn to f6, preparing to strike with e5. Hans wants to undouble his pawns. Knight to d2 and pawn to e5. We have king to c3, pawn to b5, grabbing more space on the queen side, and knight to b3. We have bishop to c8, now guarding on a6, and knight to c5. So, okay, a6 is defended, but also the bishop is now sort of stuck here, guarding a6 and f5. And also one thing that you can sort of see immediately is that David Anton has his pawns on dark squares, and Hans has some weaknesses on light squares. And as there are only light square bishops in the game, could be very relevant. We have knight to c6, pawn to e3, and knight to e7. David Anton now has all of his pawns on dark squares. We have f captures on e5, and f captures on e5. Pawn to e4, f captures on e4, knight captures with check, king to c7, and now knight back to c5. So you can see Hans playing fairly quickly. David Anton already down to 8 minutes. Hans has 41 minutes on the clock. King to d6, we have knight to e4 check, king to c7, knight back to c5, and king to d6. Hans looking for a repetition, as he's not the one that can do any pushing here, and David Anton declines. He plays king to d3. He wants to beat Hans, and he wants the full point. We have knight to c6, and we have pawn to g4. Okay, now you can create a pass pawn on the king side, perhaps. We have knight to d4, bishop to d1, nicely controlling the knight on d4, and knight back to c6. We have knight to e4 with check, king e7, king to c3, and knight to d4. We have knight to c5 and king to d6, pawn to h4, now preparing g5, and here the way to play this with black is to just wait. For example, you go king to e7, and now you don't really have to worry about anything. You're in time to capture any pawns marching on the king side, and also if knight to e4, then you can even activate the bishop, and it's a very nice position. But Hans went pawn to a5, and now it's not working for him. And there's a very particular reason for that. I'm sure you guys already see it, but just in case you don't, do you see what's wrong with this move? Even pause the video and try to solve it, as it will improve your day immensely. Of course, it is knight to e4 for those of you who are able to do it, and for those of you who just want to enjoy the show, yes, it is knight to e4. And the point is that what can you do now? If you go king to e6, which kind of makes sense, then b captures on a5, and this pawn is now, well, already on a5. King is coming to b4, and it will not be a very good position. And also, if pawn to a6, you can't capture, knight to c5 check will pick up the bishop. So many things are wrong with this position. So Hans decided to go king to d5, but now he leaves the h6 pawn out of reach. We have knight f6 check, king to e6, and knight to g8. So this pawn will fall definitely. A captures on b4, a captures, and bishop to b7, knight captures on h6. And okay, David Anton is now up a pawn, but still, this is not easily won. We have bishop to f3, offering a bishop trade, bishop to c2, offering a trade of bishop for knight, and you could go for knight to e2 check and try to play it this way, but we have knight captures on c2. Declining the trade would have been a little bit better. Now Hans makes it very, very straightforward for David Anton. We have king to f6, king to d3, king to g6, we have king to e3, bishop to d1, and now pawn to g5. The knight is nicely defended. We have king to h5 going after the h4 pawn, and now knight to f5. Defending the pawn on h4, we have bishop to c2, and the position is now winning for David Anton, but there is only one move that he can make that wins the game, and the reason for why it's winning is very, very interesting, borderline hilarious. So have at it while I give you a couple of seconds. So the winning idea is knight to e7, and it's always difficult not to give a check. But if you just give a check, nothing really happens. You give a knight g7 check, king captures on h4, and for example, your knight is blocking your own pawn. So this doesn't look like that great of a move. If you go here again, captures, and now if you go g6, just king captures on g3 and g7, bishop h7, everything is perfectly fine. But after knight to e7, there's nothing black can do here. Point being that if you capture on h4 now, g6, and after king to g5, you can go g7, and after bishop to h7, just g8 queen, and you will win that bishop. So that's the reason. But after knight e7, bishop to b1 was played. We have king to f3, and now bishop to c2. Hans repeats to see what David Anton will do. King to g3, now even the h4 pawn is nicely defended. We have bishop to d3, and now David Anton finishes it off in a most spectacular way. He plays knight to c6, and it was in this position on move 60 that Hans Moke Niemann resigned the game, as there is nothing more to be done here. Believe it or not, this could even end in a very, very quick checkmate. And the point being is that the e5 pawn is attacked. It's on a dark square, so the light square bishop is useless in defending it. You would have to play e4, then knight back to e7. And again, what do you do here? Of course, pawn to e3. If you allow the king to get closer, then you can no longer push pawn to e3. So pawn to e3, now you play knight to d5, and that's it. If pawn to e2, look at this, knight to f4 checkmate. And that's all there is to it. And if you don't play pawn to e2, if you try to avoid checkmate, then just a nice knight f4 check, king f5, you pick up the bishop, and that's it. You're up a full piece. You can even just move the knight. This is defended, this is defended. You cannot push, you cannot advance with the king. There's nothing more. And you can just advance your own passed pawn, promote it to a queen, and that will be it. So it's really, really funny maneuver, but yeah, of course, Hans did not want to see it on the board. But once again, beautiful. e4, knight to e7, e3, knight to d5, and after e2, knight to f4 check. A whole lot of horsing around, but for very good reason. So yeah, very nicely won by David Anton. Like I said, regardless of him being more than 100 rating points lower rated than Hans, he's very, rarely considered the underdog. He might not be the favorite, but he's definitely not an underdog. And like I said, he can beat just about anyone. So thank you for this very nice suggestion, Flavio. Very nice checkmate, and very nice way of taking down Hans. And it's interesting, it was David Anton who was lower on time. Hans had a lot more time on the clock. He just thought he had everything figured out. Unfortunately for him, that was not the case. So yeah, that's the game. Hope you guys enjoyed it. Once again, thanks everyone for joining the arena yesterday. We're going to try and throw in a lot more of them, and we have some other cool surprises that I cannot yet disclose, even though I would really like to. But yes, that news will also happen very, very soon. So I hope you enjoyed it. I would like to thank Tafaz Vanagvaru, Alexander Schaefer, Milos Knežević, Gerhard Henkelman, and Amar Mirza for your contribution to my channel. Thank you a lot. Really appreciate it. As usual, you can check 2 of my previous videos here. Thank you for watching, and I will see you soon, continuing to check up on your wonderful suggestions and whatever else happens in the chess world. Thank you all. I will see you soon, and have an excellent rest of your day.